So we finally find out the true meaning of why Gowther is called the sin of lust. I want to tell you, with this chapter, you remember how I said for a while now that Gowther and Merlin most likely is evil? They're very shady. There's a lot of mysteries, a lot of darkness around them. Well, I'm usually not one to say I called it, but I called it. I fucking called it. So, this chapter of Taizai. Yes, I'm drinking some coffee because I'm kind of slightly tired. I had to look at this chapter a couple times. I had to reread this chapter of Taizai 4 times because I made sure I got all the information I wanted to get out of it. I also went back to actually read chapter 106, Balor's Eye, to go back into the actual power level stuff we found out a while ago and to see exactly the true meaning behind the spirit power 400 that knocks everybody out. So, with the chapter, we find out that Gowther is technically a villain. Now, before I dive into that, I just want to talk about what Gowther's motive is. So, Gowther pretty much, from his motive, he wants a heart. And he wants to know what emotions is. And his overall objective in this fight is that he wants to know the true meaning and emotions behind, you know, memories. Like, he says memories are just information. They can easily be created or erased. It's very simple. But he wants to know what is beyond memories. He wants to know what emotions really are. He wants to know what they mean. And so now he's shifted his overall motive and goal, or his objective, to learning more about love. And his first objective, which was foreshadowed in the earlier parts of his first introduction in the Armored Giant arc, he wanted to learn more about friendship, pretty much, you know, camaraderie, and he wanted to find out more about how to connect with friends. And that was the emotion he was kind of studying. And with this, he now shifts his goal over to love, and it explains his overall change and shift of why he's wanted to suddenly get a girlfriend. Now, let's go back into what I said at the beginning of this video. As always, when it came to Taizai, there's all the actual represented titles to the sins. It always has some form of meaning to them. And we know for a fact, like, for instance, the sin of wrath, you know, goes to Meliodas, it's because of his rage. You know, the sin of greed is because of Bon, he stole the Fountain of Youth. You know, each individual title of a sin has a link to their, you know, name, or what they have done in the past, what they committed. And we finally kind of figure out what Gowther actually did. It necessarily doesn't mean that he lusted over women. When I thought of the sin of lust, I thought Gowther was lusty. Now, all of us probably thought that. We all thought he was lusty for just finding out, you know, like a wife, getting with women, bunch of stuff like that. But with the chapter, it opens my eyes up to the true meaning behind his title. He's not lusty for women or guys, whatever preference he has. He's lusty for emotions. He wants to know emotions. He lusts for emotions. And then when I discovered that, I'm like, oh shit. So it makes so much sense when you think about it like that, from the chapter standpoint and Gowther's personality since the very beginning. Like, I remember with Peliodas in the fake 7 Deadly Sins that Gowther had a friend with Peliodas. And they became friends, and I remember exactly what Peliodas said to Gowther. If you all remember that dialogue, you most likely are going to be like, oh shit, that foreshadowing. Now, the funny thing here is, that I get out of this foreshadowing with Peliodas, is that A1 decided to remove it from the anime, and now it's already starting to show you the foreshadowing they are removing from Gowther's character. I kind of laughed when I figured it out and actually started thinking about it when I went back to look at Peliodas' arc again, like his entire dialogue. Peliodas states in the last, like, couple panels of Peliodas and Gowther, Peliodas announces to Gowther, I will hunt you down. I will become a holy knight, and I will hunt you down. And let's think about this for a second, okay? It's already very apparent and obvious that the mangaka Nakaba-sensei has written this series and knows what direction he wants to take this series. He even has 2 upcoming arcs already planned out. He literally has his entire series already planned out. And he said he might eventually have a sequel. But the thing is he's already planned out the entirety of part 1 of Taizai. So, he knows what he wants to do and what direction he wants to take a series, and I have to compliment the man for that. What's to say that entire dialogue with Peliodas saying to Gowther, like, I will hunt you down, I'll become a holy knight, was actually more foreshadowing to this event. Now, at first glance, looking at that chapter, it seems more along the lines of because he was a sin, and that's why Peliodas was going to hunt him down, because, you know, there were sins, they were on the run, and supposedly they betrayed the kingdom and killed, you know, the great holy knight Zarathustra. But what if that dialogue was really just foreshadowing for this moment alone? I find that very intriguing if you think about it like that. So the thing is, the main thing that gets me about this, okay? Gowther, his personality has always been shady, or he's always been the outcast of the sins. Like, we don't know nothing about Gowther at all. And Merlin's in the exact same boat. And the only thing we truly know about Merlin is she's connected to Meliodas in some way or another, and she stole something from Meliodas, as we found out in this chapter, along with not knowing nothing about her. And we do know she has a connection with Gowther. And now, looking at the connection and seeing how Gowther acted in this chapter, it makes me assume more and more Merlin is evil. As I've stated like 10, or it's been a long time, it's like 10 or 15 chapters ago, I stated that Merlin is very, very shady, and most likely going to be the villain. There's something going on here, and it becomes more apparent when you start putting all these details together. Gowther, as we know, that was stated in the Armored Giant arc, all the sins are technically different beings. They're all different races. No sin is the exact same race. That is what we found out in the Armored Giant arc and the arc after that. We found that out, like, no sin is the exact same race. And so that means that you can only have one demon, you know, one wizard, a regular human wizard, you know, one undead zombie bond, you know, one fairy, so forth, so on. You get what I'm going with that. So there cannot possibly be like 2 wizards or, you know, 2 demons. For instance, Gowther put his head back on. We saw him do that. And Gowther, as we've all theorized, and I theorized, everybody's theorized, it seems more and more likely he's like an incubus or he is a homunculus. He's like one of those. He's one, like a succubus or something. He's something that is man-made or created, like a golem or something like that. And so there's a lot of questions around what Gowther truly is. And with this chapter, Gowther shifts into 2 different beings altogether. He had traits of an homunculus and a trait of an incubus at the exact same time. And it makes me think, like, what the fuck is really going on here? Because Gowther, I don't know what to peg him as. I don't. At one moment, I do want to peg him as a cyborg or something, because a lot in this chapter he was saying, like, computing, like, that does not compute, or this does not make sense, like, you know, with my comprehension of what's going on, like, I can't comprehend this love. Just the way Gowther was talking, it seemed more like he was a machine, a robot, and maybe it's because Nakaba-sensei wanted to make him look more emotionless. Maybe that's why he put the dialogue like that. But this overall robot attitude has been talked about once before, like when Gowther revealed, you know, his ability to see powers. When Gowther's like this, he's like, I have that, you know, component in my body. So, Gowther, he talks like a machine. And so, is Gowther really a homunculus? Or is he really an incubus or succubus or anything? Like, is he a cyborg or a golem? But, I mean, we don't know. The big question I am wondering from this is, what truly is he? And here's, at the end of the day, when it comes to this chapter, is Gowther truly evil? Now, a lot of people entering this chapter, myself included, will look at this chapter and think, Gowther's straight up evil. He's a straight up villain. But is Gowther's deeds really all that evil? I mean, let's think about it, okay? Gowther, at the end of the day, yes, he manipulated Girda's memories and made Zil forget his sister and forget his own self, and it seems very fucked up. It is very fucked up, even from my point of view. But when Gowther started doing an explanation on why he did it and what he did to Gira altogether when he manipulated her memories, he technically made her life so much better. He gave her happiness. And with this happiness, she felt like she was strong. She became a holy knight with her own strength, her own power. She didn't feel like she had to borrow power, for instance, to drink demon blood to become strong. And so, she believed that she got all this power by herself, and she lived a happy life, had a fiancé with Gowther, and it doesn't seem like it's that bad. Looking at it that perspective, these false memories do not seem that bad. And if you compare it to her actual memories, Gerda lived a shitty life. She did. I mean, I understand where, you know, Diane was saying at the end, for instance, Zil and her, even though they lived so many hardships, they had a lot of emotions and they cared for each other. At the end of the day, they loved each other and wanted to be together. And you can understand both sides. And this is what makes Gowther a really good character and what makes this a very compelling chapter. Because at the end of the day, Gowther truly isn't evil. He doesn't even understand the meaning of evil, to be honest. He doesn't. And so, you can consider Gowther's motives morally gray. For instance, it's neither good or evil. Or it can be good, both can be evil. So, at the end of the day, Gowther is a really good villain. You can understand his motive. You can understand what he is. Like, you can understand why he is doing it. And I am very compelled to say this is an amazing-ass chapter. Like, usually I say it's an amazing chapter, but this sets up a different level when it comes to Taizai. Because Gowther now is at that moment to where he's one of the most interesting villains in Taizai because his motive is relatable. Like, you can understand why he is doing it. And you can't really put him down for it. You can't. And even at the end of the day, he doesn't think he's doing evil. So, it's a pretty fucked up chapter when you think about the morally gray areas of what this chapter means. So, other things I want to discuss about this. Pretty much, Diane has lost her memories, and we know just recently she, got her memories back of King. And I have a bad feeling, and a lot of Chibis also pointed out in the live reaction, which I was having that exact same feeling when I was doing the live reaction. Why do I have a feeling that Diane is going to get her memories removed of King? Like, her memories are going to be altered, and she's going to forget about King. Something along the lines of that is going to happen. And it would be very fucked up if it does. And it's not just that, either. I also believe there's more stuff going on here, because Gowther, his power, he can affect people up to 3 miles from his epic center. With his sacred treasure, at that. He used his sacred treasure and used blackout. And he covered the entire city. And I was like, what the fuck, the power? Like, he used his sacred treasure. And as we know, I don't think we've really ever seen someone like a Sin hold their sacred treasure while they used their power and actually get it, like, examined by Balor's Eye. So, the power level we saw from Gowther a while back on Chapter 106 most likely is wrong. Like, he might even be stronger now, because we do know a sacred treasure taps into that ocean of power. So, the big thing here is Diane doesn't have her sacred treasure on her, and she's little right now. She's not tall, so she can't really fight Gowther at the moment. She can't. I mean, in a physical, up-close and personal fight, I personally believe Diane would win, because she's a giant, she still retains her strength, but we know Gowther, he's a very, ranged fighter. He shoots from a range, so he has the upper hand in this fight. He has a sacred treasure, and he has range. Diane doesn't have sacred treasure. She's smaller now, and so she has a slight less advantage, too, on that, with her size. And her, destructive capacity, the way she could wipe out buildings and shit. So, Diane's in a spot. And I personally don't believe she can win. The only way she can win is if she gets her sacred treasure and she gets physical, up close and personal with Gowther. But Gowther, I highly doubt, is going to allow that to happen. And if he uses, his ability to get inside Diane's mind, he's going to fuck with her. And he's going to win. Like, slightly what he did with Dreyfus. So, it's anyone's game at this moment. It is. But I have my theories. Merlin and Meliodas are technically not unconscious. As we find out from this blackout ability, it knocks anyone out that has a 400 power level spirit power. Like, if you have a spirit power level of 400, you get knocked out. Now, there's going to be a lot of confusion here. Okay, there will be a lot of you Chibits that are probably very confused about the 400 power level. As we found out on Chapter 106, Balor's Eye, there's 3 different types of powers. Like magic, you have strength, and then you have, spirit. And so, they're not talking about all of them put together. They're just actually talking about the spirit. They're not talking about all the power compressed into one. So, it doesn't matter if you have like a 3,000 power level altogether. If you have a 150 spirit level, you're going to get knocked unconscious. So, Gowther's ability is very, very, very dangerous. Because, looking back at the previous chapter, looking back at Chapter 106, I looked at Diane's spirit level. Her spirit power level was 480. Only 80 power level above what Gowther just did. So, that's not good at all. Meliodas was like 960. Almost over half. Like, almost a half of Meliodas' spirit power. That's how strong Gowther's ability was. And he used it a 3-mile radius. What if he would have compressed that some way and focused it on one person? He most likely could knock out some big people. So, Gowther is extremely strong. Like, holy shit. I don't know if it's because he has his sacred treasure, this is why his capacity with his power is this insane, or he's always been like this. We have no idea. But nonetheless, nobody can really fight him at the moment, probably besides Merlin, Diane if she gets her sacred treasure, and that's pretty much it. That's really the only people that can fight at the moment. I have a bad feeling, though, with the next chapter being called Revelations, something very bad is going to fucking happen. Like, I believe Merlin is going to betray the Sins. I really, really, really do. Because there's just too many connections between Merlin and Gowther. Way too many connections. And with this chapter, it makes my suspicion of Merlin grow even further. So, we will have to see with that. Other things I want to discuss. The ending conclusion with Diane versus Gowther. Wow. Just seeing two sins square off. It's ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. What a way to start this new arc. What a way to start this arc. I just like, holy shit. The sins are crumbling because, I mean, they're so shattered at the moment. All the sins are. Nobody can really help at this moment. I mean, Bond's doing his own shit. You have it to where King is in depression right now because he killed his friend 3 times and he's trying to, you know, care for Bond. And at the exact same time, he's very sad because, you know, he thinks Diane can't remember him. And then you have it to where Meliodas, he has the Demon Clan coming. Oh, well, yeah, this doesn't even get into the factor of the Demon Clan even coming. The Sins are having their own internal struggles and shit going down, and the 10 Commandments are on their way to Edinburgh or whatever. I know I'm saying it wrong, but still, they're over there going to Escanor's place, his hometown, and they're bickering. They're having inner fights. So this is not the time for that. And then you have it where Camelot's being fucked over by whatever that giant thing was. That still has yet to be answered. That is a completely different entity from the 10 Commandments. Let's be real here. The 10 Commandments were nowhere near that size of what we saw that beast, that big-ass dude, earlier on in this arc. So, it's already obvious that something else is going on. There's another party besides even the 10 Commandments about to attack Camelot. So, the chapter, overall, the structure of the chapter is a really, really, really good fucking chapter. I love it. I love the motive, and I love the inner workings of Gowther. He's actually becoming one of my favorite characters as a villain. Like, I have a lot of respect for Gowther right now. Not because he's an asshole, but because his motives make a lot of sense. And they're very twisted. And I like his motive for it. I do. And he's morally gray. You can understand him as a villain, and I respect villains like that. So, tell me your thoughts. I'm going to conclude this here. Before this gets too long, because I know it's already probably long enough, probably already over 10 minutes. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I love y'all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.